Welcome back, everybody, to the Miami Marlins franchise here on MLB The Show 23. We have made it to the All-Star break here in season number 3. Last episode, we went through the MLB draft. In case you missed that episode, I encourage you to check out the series playlist, where you can check out any episode of the series that you may have missed. We're going to make it through the All-Star break and up to the trade deadline today, which we'll be, of course, going through in the next episode. So before we get started, I do very quickly want to recap our draft for those who need a refresher. We got our top 2 targets in the first 2 rounds with Isaac Stu and Tyrell Berry, but the rest of the board did not necessarily play out how we had anticipated or hoped. Most of our mid-round targets ended up going off the board in the first round, and most of our late-round targets ended up going off the board in the middle rounds. So we had to sort of change up our strategy a little bit, and I think we did a solid job grabbing intriguing high-upside prospects, along with, of course, Stu and Berry, who I think will be big-time players within our farm system, and we'll be going through the process of signing those guys a little bit later. Let's simulate up to the All-Star break here as we beat the Nationals 10-8. Jazz Chisholm and Anthony Santander both homered twice, and that is worth noting because we are going into the Home Run Derby, and both of those guys will be participating. Jazz will be the 2 seed, and Santander will be the 6 seed. So both guys will get the opportunity to show off their swing in the Derby. We went into great detail a couple episodes ago on the season that Jazz Chisholm's having as he leads all of baseball in WAR, and it's been just utterly phenomenal. Anthony Santander's been a very solid free agent signing. He has been crushing the ball. I don't really want to user both guys here in the Home Run Derby. I feel like I really want to get invested with one player, and Jazz has been our guy since day one, so we're going to user him. Hopefully Santander does good too, but we're going to user Jazz Chisholm and try to get him the win. Jazz is averaging a home run for every 10.9 at bats, which leads all qualified players in baseball. Petco Park is the location here for the 2025 All-Star Game. They had the All-Star Game in San Diego only like 10 years ago, so it's weird that they came back so quickly, but oh well, it is what it is. Here's a look at your bracket as Jazz will face off against Miguel Sano, while Santander will face off against Rafael Devers. Got a very star-studded left side of the bracket with Pete Alonso facing Mike Trout and Jose Ramirez going up against Mookie Betts. So let's get this show on the road as Pete Alonso and Mookie Betts each will advance to the second round. And now let's take a look at our Miami Marlins. We'll start with Anthony Santander. We'll get through his round pretty quickly to see how he ultimately does. And Tony Taters did himself a lot of favors as this one will make it over for his 18th home run, 442 feet, and he would get bonus time as a result, ultimately hitting another one during the bonus, looking to get it up to 20, and this one will, in fact, just miss as it hits the wall. 19 homers for Anthony Santander, a really good round for him. We'll see if Rafael Devers can ultimately beat him and move on to the second round as Santander is taking selfies with some of the fellow All-Stars, Colton Wong and MJ Melendez. So we'll see how Rafael Devers does, and sure enough, he would hit 20. So Santander has been eliminated, and Rafael Devers will move into the second round. Who will Devers go against? Will it be his Yankee rival Miguel Sano, or will it be Miami Marlins superstar Jazz Chisholm? Sano will go first as he is the lower seed, and he did pretty solid, hitting 17 homers. It's a beatable score, but still a pretty good one. So now that'll bring up Jazz Chisholm, his second All-Star game, his first home run derby. We'll see what he can do. Jazz looking to get started off strong. He is going to start off kind of slowly as that one just misses. That one creeps fair for homer number 1, and now he's going to look to catch fire. He fouls that one off. This one is number 3, and it seems like Jazz is really finding a groove in his swing. He's got 5 homers here in the first minute. That's a really good pace. 5 homers per minute is more than enough to get the win here, and he is not showing any signs of slowing down. I think that's 6 straight homers. This one would be 7 if it gets out, and it does into straightaway center. This one, again, barely creeps out. A lot of these homers are barely leaving the yard for Jazz Chisholm, but as long as they're getting out, that's all that matters. Now he's at 11 with around 2 minutes to go as he's starting to cool off now, so he's going to call his timeout. He needs 7 homers in the next minute and a half to win, and I think he is probably on pace to do that. But now he is starting to slow down a little bit. He's at 12. Make it 13. Can this one get to 14? Yes, he's back on pace. He needs just 3 more, now 2 more. He doesn't have any 440-foot homers to put himself in bonus time, but he might not need it. He's 1 away, and that one's not quite enough. He should have 3 or 4 more swings, as that one will tie it, 425. He needs just one more to win. That one stays in the yard, but barely. This one will, again, barely stay in the yard. He's only going to get one more swing, and it does not have enough carry. I think his last 3 all went off the wall and just barely stay in. So we will have a 1-minute tiebreaker round between Sano and Jazz Chisholm. Sano is rocking early. He's already at 3 homers with his first 3 swings. That one goes foul. Then he swings and misses. I get his plate vision is bad, but it's a home run derby. How do you swing and miss? There's number 4, and that one will go out for number 5. So Miguel Sano got 8 swings, and he homered 5 times. That's a pretty good round. We'll see if Jazz can respond, and he misses his first 2. So now he's really got to catch fire in a straightaway center. There's 1. There's number 2 in the right field corner, and that one's number 3. Now he's starting to play better. This one, number 4, does not quite have enough carry. He should have time for 2 more swings to potentially tie it. That one's gone, and he's not going to get another pitch. The pitcher didn't throw the ball in time. And so Jazz Chisholm has been eliminated from the home run derby in heartbreaking fashion. That's got to hurt. So Miguel Sano moves on to the second round. Let's take a look at how the rest of the derby ends up. As ultimately, in the finals, Miguel Sano will make it, upsetting Rafael Devers, and he will go up against Big Meat Pete Alonso, the home run derby king, and he will take it all the way. Alonso won multiple home run derbies as a member of the Mets, and now he gets one with the Atlanta Braves. So there you go. Pete Alonso wins another home run derby. The Derby Tryhard adds another trophy to the collection, and Pete Alonso wins his annual World Series. He had some long homers there, while Santander and Chisholm both do not make it out of the first round. So now we will make it into the All-Star game. I do want to take a look at the All-Star rosters beforehand because we've got plenty of players on our roster who will be in the game. So we will start, of course, with ace Sandy Alcantara, who was the leading vote getter for NL starting pitchers for most of the year before losing out in the end to Zach Wheeler, who will get to start the game instead. Believe it or not, this is the first time in this series that Sandy has made the All-Star game. He was supposed to make it in Season 1, but he got injured right before the All-Star game. So technically, he probably still was an All-Star, but he didn't get to play. And then last year, he forgot how to pitch for the first 2 months of the year. Still very well deserved nonetheless, as Liam Hendricks will also make it in the bullpen. I was a little bit surprised by this. Not to say he's been bad, but I feel like if we were to go with one of our relievers, I would almost say Camilo Duvall belongs in over him. But still, he's had a pretty good season for us and has been a rock in the back end of our bullpen. Here's the catchers. You may notice there is an obvious omission here. Where the hell is Nick Fortes? What are we doing? There is no way on God's green earth that Nick Fortes should be anywhere but the All-Star game. Look at the numbers. Offensively, he's been ridiculous. 332, OPS at around 1,000. He's got a WAR of about 5 while playing Gold Glove level defense. He's 3rd in the NL in batting average. He is 2nd among NL catchers in homers. He's tied for 4th in batting WAR, along with catcher Tyler Stevenson, who also did not make the All-Star game. But instead, we have MJ Melendez and Wilson Contreras. I get every team needs a rep, and those are the only reps for their teams. But still, that's ridiculous. We do get Luis Arraez in, thankfully. I mean, I would think he made it, but after seeing Nick Fortes not get in, I'm not expecting anything. Arraez has had a phenomenal season. He already has a career high in homers. He's hitting 365. He's on pace to beat his career high in WAR. And his OPS is near 1,000 as he looks to win the National League batting title. And then we've got one more All-Star on the team, as expected, out in the outfield. Jazz Chisholm finally makes an All-Star game within this series, and this is very well deserved again. Through the first 2 seasons of this series, Jazz was a good but not great player, and this year he's better than I ever really could have expected. He's hitting 300, 2nd in the league in homers, 1060 OPS, 5.6 WAR, which leads all of baseball, and he's on pace to finish with a season of around 10 WAR, which is just ridiculous. Here's a look at the American League. Some names that we know from other series, such as Dylan Tate, Emmanuel Clase, Ethan Adley Rutschman from the Orioles series in MLB The Show 21, Jose Ramirez as well. Good to see guys we know on the channel continuing to produce here within the Marlins series. Let's take a look at the minor league All-Stars For AA, we have Hitoki Nomo, Cam Norman, Fernando Cortez among starting pitchers, and then Jorge Mercedes out of the bullpen. Joel Beltran makes it with the catchers, even though he has been pretty bad this year, hitting .207. Oswaldo Matias makes it at first base. Ishmael Alcantara at third. Ronald Andino makes it at shortstop. He's hitting .190. Are you kidding me? I don't even know what to say about that. He is a WAR of -1. What are we doing? And then Yiddy Cape, the former Marlins prospect who we traded for Yandy Diaz, makes it in as well. Anthony Peguero is in along with Jose Gerardo. Those two guys are actually pretty deserving. Along with Nelson Cruz at like 45 years old. As for AAA, there's less All-Stars because not everybody and their mother makes the team, unlike in AA. We would only get one player on the AAA roster, and that's Khalil Watson, who's only hitting .219. To be fair to him, he has been playing well for most of the year. He's just hit a cold spell. But I feel like guys like Aaron Sabato or Kevin Alcantara or half of our pitching staff probably should have made the roster. So let's now hop into the Major League All-Star Game, the Midsummer Classic for the year 2025. Here in San Diego. After getting only 3 All-Stars combined through the first 2 seasons of this series, Nick Fortes in Season 1, and then Brian De La Cruz and Jordan Hicks last year, the Marlins have 4 players headed to San Diego for the All-Star Game. Ace, Sandy Alcantara, closer Liam Hendricks, batting title leader Luis Arraez, and WAR leader Jazz Chisholm. It should be a fun game here for the All-Star Game, but it is rainy, though, so the weather, as you can see, is not ideal. Mother Nature decided not to be kind today. We're going to do what we normally do with the All-Star Game, and that is simcast, but play moments where our guys are in the game, whether it's an at-bat with Luis Arraez and Jazz Chisholm, who are both in the starting lineup. Arraez is hitting second. Jazz is hitting 8th for whatever reason. I feel like he should hit higher. And then we're going to pitch an inning with Sandy Alcantara and Liam Hendricks if those guys get opportunities to play. So Zach Wheeler is getting the start for the NL of the Philadelphia Phillies. He would quickly retire the side. Shane McClanahan is on the bump in the AL. And with one away, he'll face off against Luis Arraez, who pops it in the left. And it is caught by Alex Verdugo. Well, that'll bring up the former Padre Juan Soto, who hits a dinger. The National League is on the board, but the AL would answer with an RBI double from George Springer to tie it at 1. Jazz Chisholm is up now in the bottom of the second with 2 away and a full count. Jazz facing off against a lefty. Of course, he's not as good against left-handed pitching, but he does hit this one sharply for a base hit. Good at bat for Jazz. He gets a base hit here in the All-Star Game. We'll see if the 9th hitter in the lineup can potentially score him. That's Alex Bregman with the Diamondbacks, as we're going to have Jazz steal second, and it doesn't really matter. So into the 3rd inning now. This would be where Sandy comes into the game, but we're actually going to throw Shane Bieber in there. I want Sandy to pitch the next inning instead because the batters that we'll be facing are better. Luis Arraez here in the bottom of the 3rd, facing off against Alek Manoah. Dansby Swanson led off the inning with a double as Arraez grounds it to short. Good play by Oswald Peraza, the first-time All-Star with the Yankees, who is able to field it cleanly. Arraez did advance the runner, but he will not score, and we will move into the 4th. Alcantara into the game, and he's got quite the star-studded group he has to face. Devers, J-Ram, and Julio Rodriguez are the first 3 up. Devers grounds it to short, and Swanson just doesn't throw it. I mean, did he lose the grip on the ball because of the rain? What was that? So it's going to be an E6 against Swanson, and so the AL gets an early base runner. And here's another one. It's a single for Jose Ramirez. The infield had to play in for a potential double play, so if Swanson actually threw the ball like he should have, there would be 2 outs. Instead, there is 0. That'll bring up Julio Rodriguez, who strikes out on the circle change. Big out for Sandy Alcantara. Now facing off against Adley Rutschman, who draws a walk, and the bases are loaded. That'll bring up George Springer. Rips this one past the diving glove of Bregman. 1 run scores. A second will join, and the American League leads it 3-1. Neither of those guys should have gotten on base, but it is what it is. Nathaniel Lowe rips it to first. Alonso catches the liner and tags Springer for a double play. Great defense from Big Meat Pete, but the AL scores 2. Not exactly the best inning there from Sandy Alcantara in his 3rd career All-Star game, I believe. And so the AL now leads it 3-1. As we go into the bottom of the 4th, Garrett Cole is into the game, and he will face off against Jazz Chisholm with a runner on. And it looks like Chisholm will weakly pop this one over to third. And it's caught by Rafael Devers. The AL has Jose Ramirez playing at second, by the way. I have no idea why. So Walker Buehler will come into the game in the fifth. He allows a couple runners, no big deal. Bottom five, Nasty Nestor is in for the National League, and we're going to start to bring in pinch hitters. That means Luis Arraez's day will be done. He'll be replaced by C.J. Abrams of the Nationals. Zach Gallen is now in the game as Rutschman reaches off of an error, and a run will score as a result, making it 4-1. That's now 2 errors against the National League defense. Framber Valdez, the lefty from the Astros, is in, looking to get out of the inning as he walks Acuna. Big at bat for Daiki Fujita, and he hits a 2-run homer. So the young first baseman makes a huge play, but that's it for the NL. So it's 4-3 going into the seventh. Rookie Alonso Juarez of the Diamondbacks is in the game. He is not allowed to run all season, and he'll keep his scoreless streak going. Emmanuel Clase now in as he allows a couple early base runners. Now he walks Colton Wong. Bases are loaded, and the National League is trying to get something done, and they are unsuccessful. Liam Hendricks will now come into the game for the 8th, but before he can, it looks like this game is going into a rain delay that'll last roughly an hour. So Liam Hendricks will stay in the game here for the 8th, and he will walk Aaron Judge to start things off. Early base runner for the AL. That'll bring up Danny Jansen with the White Sox. Hits this one well into right, and Ronald Acuna cannot make the play. Acuna slow to get over to it. Judge will score, and the American League now leads at 5-3 off of an RBI double from Danny Jansen. That'll bring up George Springer, who's driven in 3 runs today, lines it to third. Brett Beatty, the first-time All-Star with the Mets, is able to make the play. Nathaniel Lowe will then go down looking on the slider. Good pitch by Hendricks, looking to get out of the jam. Now against Peraza, got him on the knuckle curve. That is another runner to score, though. Of the 5 American League runs today, 3 of them have been driven in against Marlins pitchers. Felix Bautista of the Orioles will make it through the 8th. I want to have both of the Diaz brothers pitch in the 9th as Alexis Diaz allows a couple of outs after a walk. We're going to bring Edwin Diaz in, and he makes it through the inning. Johan Duran of the Twins is in for the 8th, and he will get the job done. The American League wins the All-Star game by the final score of 5-3. The AL wins the All-Star game pretty much every year, and this season is no different, as the American League gets the job done here in San Diego. Still a fun All-Star break nonetheless. Even if really all of the Marlins disappointed, Alcantara did not pitch well, neither did Liam Hendricks. Luis Arraez went 0-2. Jazz Chisholm lost in the first round of the Home Run Derby, and Anthony Santander did as well. So, not exactly the best of showings, but still a fun week. Nonetheless, as you can see here, for whatever reason, they're not going to let us see the NL pitching stats, which honestly is a relief. I don't even know if I want to see the pitching stats because Sandy and Hendricks both did not pitch very well. But yeah, the game's not going to show us. Sandy got the loss, by the way, even though some of those base runners really were not his fault. So we are now done the All-Star break, and we are here into the second half of the season. And before we sim and play a game, I do kind of want to talk about the state of the team because we're 49-41. We're in first place in a very competitive wild card race. So realistically, if we want one of these wild card spots, we're probably going to be big-time buyers at the trade deadline, unless we absolutely suck out of the gate of the All-Star break and go on some, 11-game losing streak, then I think we will certainly be players at this year's deadline. The offense has been good, but if I were to pick out an area of improvement, possibly in the outfield. Brian De La Cruz and Jesus Sanchez are both fine players, but I think we could possibly upgrade if we wanted. We've got to get a starting pitcher, realistically. We only have 2 consistently good ones. And I think we need to have a conversation about Trevor Rogers. In Season 1, he was fine, but last year he was hurt and pretty bad. This year, high WAR, but the counting numbers are not good. Yuri Perez has not been good. Jesus Luzardo, who's hurt, has not been good. The bullpen has, though, but it never hurts to improve the bullpen. But realistically, I think we're looking for an outfielder and a starter. So we can swing low, look for a rental in the outfield, like Alex Verdugo, who's having a great season. Taylor Ward with the Angels has been absolutely mashing the baseball this year. Again, he's a free agent at the end of the season. If we want to swing a little bit higher, Cedric Mullins is an option. He's having one of his better offensive seasons. Randy Arozarena probably will not cost an arm and a leg, but I think he maybe costs like an arm and a toe. for us to trade for. If we really want to go big, I think there's two very intriguing choices. Luis Robert with the White Sox being the first one. I feel like the idea of Luis Robert is better than the actual player of Luis Robert, and this is more so about him within this series. In real life, he's a superstar, but within this series, in 6 seasons with the White Sox, he's never played over 100 games. He's never hit over 20 homers, and while he is a pretty good player overall, he has a hard time staying on the field. Despite that, he is so immensely talented, and he's on a pretty team-friendly contract through 2027. I think it would be an interesting gamble to potentially look at trading him. The other big option would be Bryan Reynolds with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and we talked about him last year because he was on the trade block, and they've been taking him on and off the block this year. It seems like they're very uncommitted on paying him, despite the fact that he's had over a 900 OPS over the last 4 years. So let's look at Luis Robert, for example, what it would cost. I think Reynolds would probably be a little bit less. So realistically, maybe one of the outfielders, maybe a guy like Trevor Rogers, certainly some prospects in there as well. I mean, it's going to cost a lot, but I think it'd be worth it for a guy like Robert or Reynolds. What about the pitchers? I think Mitch Keller is an interesting name to keep an eye on. He was also on the trade block, but he's been really good, and I can't imagine the Dodgers will want to trade him to an NL playoff contender. Tyler Mahle with the Twins has been really solid, and that's what we need, somebody who's consistent. Casey Mize with Detroit is an interesting one. He'd be more of a long-term player. He's got 2 more years of team control, but the Tigers are the worst team in baseball, and Mize has had some health issues throughout his career. Maybe the Tigers look to move him for some prospects. Freddie Peralta is another guy who's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, but he's been very consistent and good throughout his career. So we've got some options, and on the trade block as well, Tyler Stevenson is the name that pops out. We do not need a catcher, obviously, but he is a really good player. Other than that, there's nobody super good here. We talked about the idea of trading for Elly De La Cruz because he was on the trade block for a little while, but the Giants did trade him to the Detroit Tigers. Man, the things I would do to have Elly De La Cruz on the Tigers. Man, I wish. Let me know which players in specific you guys are interested in down below in the comments. I do have a couple small roster moves I want to make. Taylor Trammell will be sent down for Ethan Wilson. Wilson's been playing pretty well in AAA. I want to give him an opportunity. And then Jacob Berry, he's been up for almost a full season, and he has just not been good. 9 homers in over 100 games, 227 career average, sub 300 on base. OPS is barely above 600. Negative WAR this year. He's got to get his act together, whereas Aaron Sabato in AAA has been pretty solid, so I want to give him a look as well. Both Wilson and Sabato will start off the bench, but both of them should be able to get a decent amount of ABs. So we're going to simulate these next 4 series against the Rockies, Cubs, Twins, and Rays, but I do want to sign our draft picks during that stretch. For the first stage of signings, I accidentally left it on auto, and the game signed both Tyrell Berry and Ian Rigdon, so they are both now with the team. We're going to try to give everybody's interests up, but after simming 3 days, no one's interest is going up. So what I decided to do was put it on auto. I did some test sims, and usually the CPU would end up signing everybody. It doesn't seem to be working for me, so I'm going to let the game handle it because I think the game has it under control. Early into the sim, we got a trade offer from the Rockies, who we are currently playing against, and it's a very interesting one. They're offering us 21-year-old shortstop prospect Ariel Amador in exchange for Victor Mesa Jr. Amador has actually been on my radar for multiple seasons now. I really like him, and I'm very intrigued by this offer. Victor Mesa Jr. is a good player. He hasn't really gotten much production in the big leagues, but he's been a very good minor league player for a number of seasons now. But I feel like it would be foolish not to do this. Amador is a great prospect and a guy I have wanted for a while, and I think this would be a great deal for us, even though we're giving up a good player in Victor Mesa Jr., who in his Rockies debut hit a dinger against us, but I still think that's a good deal for us. So Braxton Garrett will be sent down to AAA with Sixto Sanchez returning. He'll be the long reliever. The Red Sox would then offer as a trade Matthew Lugo for Joel Beltran. I would say no. So I have finished up the sim, and the results ended up being very interesting, hence why I have decided to blur it out. Remember when I said that everything was going well unless this team went on like an 11-game losing streak? That's foreshadowing, kids. We lost 11 games in a row. Yeah, not good. So we are 51-52. We're a game under 500. We are way out of the wild card race, 4.5 back of the third team. So what happened? We won the first 2 games against the Rockies, and then we lost 11 in a row, getting swept by the Cubs, the Twins, and the Rays. Well, it's pretty simple what happened during our 11-game losing streak. We forgot how to hit the ball. We scored no more than, I think, 3 runs within any of those 11 games. That's dreadful. The pitching was actually really good during that stretch, believe it or not, as we would get another offer from the Rockies, and it's a very interesting one. Brendan Rodgers for Trevor Rogers. I feel like this team needs a shakeup after losing 11 in a row. I decided to say no, but I don't hate the idea. So that'll bring us to a 3-game set in Cincinnati against the Reds. We're going to play this first game. We've lost 11 in a row, and we have to get back on the win column. I've been talking about players who we could look to buy this year at the trade deadline, but if we keep losing games, we're going to be out of the wild card race and probably not buyers at the deadline. So something's got to happen here. We've got to start winning some games, or else things could go downhill very quick. Again, the pitching has been really good since the All-Star break, but we have forgotten how to hit the ball. On the mound for the Reds will be the lefty Kyle Harrison, 5.23 ERA. He was the guy they originally got back in Season 2 for Elly De La Cruz, and he hasn't been all that good yet in the big leagues, but he is facing off against, right now, the worst offense in baseball, who, of course, was the best offense through the first 3 months of the year. Nick Fortes strikes out. Harrison would make it through the first pretty easily as we go to the bottom of the first. Eury Perez is on the mound for the Marlins. He's been up for over a full season now, and he has not pitched well. I get that he's 21 years old, but we have not seen much improvement from him yet, and his day will not start off well. Noelvi Marte rips it into the gap for a double. Not exactly the start a team who's gotten swept 3 times in a row on an 11-game losing streak is looking for. Jonathan India will drive him in. It's an RBI double into left field. And already the Cincinnati Reds are on the board as they lead it 1-0. That'll bring up Jake Fraley, who strikes out, so Perez gets out of the inning, but the Reds are already ahead. The Marlins cannot hit, so in order to win this game, they've got to pitch well, and that's obviously not the start they were hoping for. Santander draws a walk. Hey, that's a base runner if nothing else. And Woody Landry will then strike out. That'll bring up the two-way player, Gennaro Miller, who gets plunked. The Marlins are not getting hits, but they're getting base runners. That'll bring up the rookie, Aaron Sabato, who strikes out. Sabato so far is 0 for 11 in his big league career. Not exactly a flying start, but hey, at least he's not the only guy who's been struggling these last 2 weeks, right? Tyler Naquin draws a walk. That'll bring up TJ Friedl, who rips it into the gap. That's got a chance to score Naquin, and it should pretty easily. An RBI double for TJ Friedl, and the Cincinnati Reds extend their lead as they are now up 2-0. That'll bring up Sean Paulson, the Reds' first-round pick last year. Grounds it over to third. Diaz makes the play, but that'll score the runner Friedl from third. But the Reds already lead it 3-0, as that'll bring us back to the top of the order. Jonathan Daza strikes out on the fastball. Perez gets out of the inning, but he's already allowed 3. The Marlins have scored no more than 3 during their 11-game losing streak, so the odds are not in their favor of them winning this game. Diaz checks his swing and goes around for a strikeout. Nick Fortes is up now with a full count, and he will strike out as well, swinging at a pitch well out of the zone. Nothing is going right for the Marlins to start this game. I mean, their offense has been abysmal, and has been abysmal over the last 2 weeks. Luis Arraez swings and misses at the fastball, and so Kyle Harrison, with a no-hitter through 3, strikes out the side. Into the bottom of the third, Noelvi Marte leads it off as he hits this one off the wall and right. Eury Perez's rough night continues as Marte is 2 for 2 with a pair of doubles, and he's in scoring position for Tyler Stevenson. Launches this one into left, and it scrapes over the fence for a 2-run homer. The Reds extend their lead as they are now up 5-0. Stevenson with his 17th homer of the year. That'll bring up Jonathan India, who draws a walk. The Marlins got to think about taking Perez out of the game. He's getting rocked. He's starting to figure some things out as he strikes out Tyler Naquin, but then TJ Friedl launches an absolute piss missile into right. So the Reds now lead at 7-0. We're still here in the third inning. I mean, this has gone downhill fast. So Yuri Perez will be taken out of the game. 2 2/3 innings, 7 runs allowed. Not a good start from him at all. To be fair, he could have only allowed 2 runs, and the Marlins would probably not give him any run support, but still not good. Sixto Sanchez will come out of the bullpen to replace him. The Marlins are hoping they can get 3 to 4 innings out of him. We'll see if they'll be able to get that. Cam Collier starts things off strong as he barely gets this one fair into left, and he is aboard with a double. So the Reds are just going to keep on swinging the bat. They've got another runner in scoring position, and so that'll bring up the rookie, first baseman Sean Paulson. He hits this one into right, and again it barely goes fair, right into the corner. That'll be an RBI double for Paulson. And so the Reds now lead it 8-0 as this lead continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Jonathan Daza now single into center. Paulson will look to score. The throw from De La Cruz is a little bit offline. And so the Reds now lead it 9-0. That's a 6 spot here in the third. But guess what? They're not done. Jazz Chisholm trips over himself. I mean, that play has been literally the definition of the Marlins over the last 2 weeks. That'll score the runner, and it is now 10-0. As bad as Yuri Perez was, Sixto Sanchez might be even worse. He allows a 2-run homer to Tyler Stevenson. That is his second home run of the inning. And it is now 12-0. Not good. Talk about beating a dead horse. The largest comeback in MLB history is literally 12 runs. So the Marlins would need some crazy historic comeback, and, well, the offense hasn't exactly suggested they could do that. Will Sanchez finally get out of the inning as India grounds it to short? Jazz Chisholm makes a really nice play, and that'll wrap up the third. The Reds with a 9 spot here in the third inning, headlined by 2 Tyler Stevenson homers. As we go into the fourth, the Marlins still don't have a hit yet, while the Reds have 12 runs. The no-hitter is dead with a Brian De La Cruz single, so at least the Marlins won't get no hit tonight. I guess there's that. They've got 2 runners on now and an opportunity to score, if nothing else. A big opportunity here for Gennaro Miller with a 2-2 count. Swinging to miss. 4 dominant innings from Kyle Harrison as we go into the bottom of the fourth inning. Sixto Sanchez allowed 5 runs in the third inning. And into the fourth, Aaron Sabato completely misplays an easy fly ball for a Jake Fraley double. Again, just flat out bad. Tyler Naquin then hits this one into right center, and that one is gone. It is now 14-0. This is just an utter disaster class. I don't know how else to put it. Sixto Sanchez is out. He'll be replaced by Jordan Hicks, who would actually make it out of the inning, retiring the next 3 batters. The Reds still score 2, and they take a 14-0 lead. We move into the fifth. Kyle Harrison is out of the game, and I honestly like that decision for the Reds. Why waste his arm when you've got such a big lead? Aaron Sabato will lead the inning off here for the Marlins, and he will draw a walk. It took Sabato like 12 plate appearances, but he's finally reached base. Good for him. So that'll bring up Yandy Diaz here at the top of the order. He has a 3-1 count. Diaz hits this one well into right field. Back at the track at the wall. It is gone. 2-run homer for Yandy Diaz, and the Marlins are on the board as they cut the lead to 12. Chris Paul hits a huge 3 to cut the lead to 42. This must be the baseball equivalent of that. So it's now 14-2. At least the Marlins are on the board, if nothing else. Anthony Santander goes down looking. That'll wrap up the fifth. The Marlins score 2, and we go to the bottom half of the inning. Hicks strikes out Jonathan Daza to get things started. Jordan Hicks is looking really good so far. Got to give him credit. And now we move into the sixth. Gennaro Miller will single into left field, and the Marlins will start the inning with the bases loaded. You know, if they were to make a comeback, I guess this would be the opportunity to do it. Jesus Sanchez will come into the game off the bench as a pinch hitter for Sabato, and he will draw a walk. So it is now 3-0. The Marlins, I think, only have 1 hit in this inning, yet they've got 4 base runners. Buck Farmer will be taken out. He'll be replaced by Sean Armstrong, looking to get the Reds out of the bases-loaded jam. He'll face off against Yandy Diaz, who homered in the last inning. Diaz lines this one into center. That'll go for a hit. 1 run scores. A second will join, and it's now 14-5. Got to give the Marlins credit. They're at least trying to make a comeback, even if it would be the craziest and largest comeback in MLB history, which sounds extremely far-fetched. They're giving it a crack. Nick Fortes now lines this one high and deep into right center, and that ball is gone. Okay, the Marlins might be making things interesting. It's now 14-8. There's still a lot of ground room to make up, but hey, the offense has woken up. The Marlins had not scored more than 3 runs during their 11-game losing streak, and now they've got 6 here today. It's good seeing the offense make some plays and showing signs of life, even in a game that feels impossible to win. Jazz Chisholm now hits this one high and deep, and that ball is gone. The lead is within 5. So it's now 14-9. That's Chisholm's 31st home run of the season, 420 feet. Again, I don't want to be talking comeback just yet, but the Marlins are making this interesting, if nothing else, keeping the Reds on their toes. So the Reds will go back to the bullpen. Dominic Leone will replace Sean Armstrong. Leone with a sub-3 ERA facing off against Woody Landry, who pops this one up into shallow right field, and it should be caught by the second baseman. But still a really good inning. The Marlins entered the inning down by 12, and they got 7 runs back, headlined by a pair of homers from Fortes and Jazz Chisholm. Got to give a lot of credit here to Jordan Hicks. During this little comeback, Jordan Hicks has been a steady rock. He strikes out India and Fraley, not allowing any base runners yet, but maybe I spoke a little bit too soon. Tyler Naquin hits this one well into left center. That one is gone, and the Reds are back on the board. It's now 15-9. Naquin with his 17th of the year, his 2nd of the game. Tyler Naquin quietly has had a phenomenal season for the Reds. TJ Friedel will check his swing, and that'll wrap up the 6. So the Reds respond with 1 after the Marlins get 7. Still a long ways to go. The Marlins are down 15-9, but I guess they're not completely out of it quite yet. Brian De La Cruz will lead off the 7th. He hits this one sharply into the gap. That one looks like it'll drop, and it does for a base hit. So De La Cruz starts the inning aboard. All you got to do is get a couple of base runners on, and then things can get interesting, just like the previous inning. So that'll bring up the number 8 hitter, Gennaro Miller. He's reached base a couple times today. He's got a full count here. And Miller will draw a walk. That's a tough pitch to lay off, just barely out of the strike zone. So now there's 2 runners aboard for Jesus Sanchez, who drew in a run off of a walk in his last at-bat. And he will draw another walk. I will say the Reds have had very poor command of the strike zone tonight. The Marlins have had great discipline and have drawn a ton of walks. So for the 2nd straight inning, the bases are loaded with nobody out. Yandy Diaz grounds this one down the line. Collier deflects it. Run scores, though. Everybody is safe. And it is now 15-10. Both teams are in the double digits. So now things are getting really interesting. Bases loaded, nobody out, 5-run game. The Marlins can really do some more damage. That'll bring up Fortes, homer in his last at-bat. That's a really tough pitch to lay off. That's got to take so much discipline. But it pays off as he draws a walk. So the Reds will go to the bullpen. Felix Castro is now into the game. The bases are still loaded. There's still nobody out. The tying run is at the plate. Remember, the Marlins just a few innings ago were down 14-0, and now the tying run is up. It's Luis Arraez, Mr. Clutch, who flies in into left, and it's caught for the first out of the inning. Sanchez will look to tag up, and he is out of there! The Reds throw him out. It's a double play. And so now there's 2 away. The tying run is no longer up. Jazz Chisholm flies in into left, and it looks like it will be caught. Not a terrible inning as the Marlins do score 2, but it feels like they could have done so much more there to put themselves truly back in the game. Camilo Duvall will come in out of the bullpen. This is normally where A.J. Puck would come in, but the Marlins are looking to save Puck for the next inning because he'll probably face a lot of lefties. So Duvall will come in for the 7th as Cam Collier starts things strong with a base hit. The Reds obviously have choked a pretty big lead. They were up by 14. Now they're only up by 4. But you can't blame the offense for continuously getting base runners as Sean Paulson draws a walk. 2 on, nobody out for Jonathan Daza, grounds into the pitcher. That's a huge double play. The Marlins needed that one. They cannot let the Reds increase this lead. The Marlins already have so much catching up to do, they can't allow any more runs. But unfortunately for them, Noelvi Marte hits this one well into right. Santander will not make the play, and Marte will get another extra base hit. This one ends up being a triple. Run scores, obviously, and it is now 16-11. As that'll bring up Tyler Stevenson. He rips it into center. De La Cruz will make the play. So the Marlins scored 2 here in the 7th, but the Reds get 1 of their own. It's now 16-11 going into the 8th. Anthony Santander leads things off with Felix Castro still in the game as he hits it up the middle, and that'll go for a single. As we've seen in the last 2 innings, getting early base runners will take you a long way. Just get guys on and do some damage. That'll bring up the rookie Woody Landry. 0 for 3 today, hasn't really done much of anything. 2-2 count, and Woody crushes it into right field. This one is gone, and the Marlins have it within 3. It's now 16-13. The rookie Woody Landry with his 16th of the year. Still a ways to go, but we're really knocking on the door of this lead. TJ Antoine comes in out of the bullpen against Gennaro Miller. He crushes it into right field. That one goes even deeper. The Marlins are within 2. It's now 16-14. That's Miller's 3rd big league homer. He's going to showboat around the bases, 443 feet, and nearly 110 miles an hour of exit velo. The Marlins offense is really feeling themselves. They scored a total of 14 runs during their 11-game losing streak. They now have 14 today. Unfortunately, they would not add any more. Diaz strikes out, and that'll wrap up the 8th. Good inning again, though. The Marlins score 3 off of the pair of homers from Landry and Miller. The Marlins still have a ton of work to do, but this feels like the first point in the game where I actually think they have a real chance. So A.J. Puck is now in. After Jonathan India, the Reds have 4 straight lefties up. But unfortunately, Jonathan India can hit lefties pretty well. He'll start the inning off with a double. The Marlins have had to overcome so much today, and they still have a ways to go in the 9th inning. So you cannot let the Reds score more runs whatsoever. Jake Fraley goes down on the slider. Tyler Naquin up next, singles into left. Runner will look to head home. The throw from Sanchez, it's going to be close. They got him! What a throw by Jesus Sanchez to gun down Jonathan India for the 2nd out of the inning. Everything is going right for the Marlins right now as TJ Friedel draws a walk. So now there's 2 on, 2 away. Huge at bat for Cam Collier, and he's going to hit this one well into center. That'll drop for a hit. 1 run scores. It's now 17-14. You can't let these guys score. You cannot let the Reds take a bigger lead. Sean Paulson's up now. He will single into right. Santander will make the throw home. Runner is waved around, and the throw is just barely not in time. Cincinnati's now up by 4, and they still have 2 runners on. So Puck will be removed from the game. He'll be replaced by the closer, Liam Hendricks, who will hope to get the Marlins out of the 8th inning as Daza flies this one into right. Santander should make the play. An eventful 8th inning. The Marlins score 3, but then they allow 2. They've got a ways to go here in the 9th inning. They trail by 4. The offense has been unbelievably good these last few innings, but they're going to need another really big inning. So the Reds are going to bring in their all-star closer, Alexis Diaz. 24 of 26 on save ops this season. Diaz is shut down. This is going to be a real challenge. Nick Fortes draws a walk. Good start. Get early base runners. That has to be the mantra right now for Miami. That'll bring up Luis Ariz. He does not have a hit all day, and he gets plunked. Okay, there's another base runner. 2 on, nobody out for Jazz Chisholm, who homered earlier in the game. Another homer would be pretty nice right about now. Chisholm's got a full count, and he draws a walk. So Diaz has loaded the bases. None of these guys have gotten on by hits. It's just walks and hit by pitches. And so that'll bring up Anthony Santander, who's got a full count, and he will also draw a walk. Alexis Diaz cannot find the strike zone, so it's now 15-18. The tying run is on base, and for the first time tonight, the winning run is at the plate. It's Woody Landry with still nobody out, and Woody hits this one well into left center field. 1 run scores, a second will join. Santander looks to score, and the Miami Marlins have tied it at 18. An unbelievable comeback. They trailed by 14-0 and have overcome the biggest comeback in the history of Major League Baseball. but we still have work to do. We're not winning yet. Runner in scoring position for De La Cruz, who draws a walk. So that's now 6 straight base runners to start the inning for the Marlins, only one of whom reached off of the base hit. That is absolutely wild. Alexis Diaz is still in the game for what it's worth as Gennaro Miller hits this one high and deep into center field. That one's going to drop. The Marlins could take the lead. The problem is all of their base runners are jammed together. De La Cruz is out at third. The other runners are just going to hold tight, so there's no more funny business. So there's 1 out, 2 runners in scoring position. That'll bring up Jesus Sanchez, who will be walked for a 3rd time today. This is a good play here by the Reds. Load the bases to set a force out at all bases. Yandy Diaz absolutely cannot put the ball on the ground no matter what. For God's sakes, he puts the ball on the ground. 6-4-3 double play. Inning over. So the Marlins do score 4, but again, it felt like they could have done so much more. Over these last 3 innings, our offense has been great, but I feel like there's been something left to be desired in each of the last 3 innings. So now the Reds can walk it off in the bottom of the 9th as they get their base runner. Tyler Stevenson is aboard with a single. The Reds have scored in each of the last 3 innings as Jonathan India strikes out on the slider. That'll bring us to Jake Fraley, the 2-1, grounded to short. Chisholm flips it over to second, and through 9 innings, we do not have a winner. The Marlins have overcome a 14-run lead to bring this game into extra innings as we are knotted up at 18 apiece. Esteury Ruiz will replace Yandy Diaz as a pinch runner, and the Marlins will start the 10th with the heart of their order, and Alexis Diaz still in the game. Fortes rips this one into the gap. That'll go for extra bases, and the Marlins take their first lead of the entire game. It's now 19-18. After trailing by 14 runs, the Marlins are now winning, and Diaz will still stay in the game. That'll bring up Jazz Chisholm with 1 away. Jazz Chisholm crushes it into left. This is the moment that changes everything. 2-run homer for Jazz, his 32nd of the year, his 2nd of the night, and it is now 21-18. What a rally by the Miami Marlins, and Diaz is still in the game. The reason? All of Cincinnati's relievers have already pitched tonight. They are out of relievers as Santander goes down looking. That'll bring up Woody Landry. He is a 3-1 count. Landry rips it up the middle, and the play will be made. An eventful 10th inning for the Marlins. They score 3 with a double by Fortes, a homer by Jazz Chisholm. Miami can win this game. Adonis Takadopoulos is in for the save. Luckily, the Marlins still have 2 additional relievers left, along with Takadopoulos. His season started off rough, but he has been very good over the last month or so. Tyler Naquin grounds it up the middle. Adonis makes the play. That's out number 1, while the extra innings runner advances to third. TJ Friedel will draw a walk. Runners on the corners, and the tying run is at the plate. It's Randall Grichuk, a pinch hitter, who hits this one well into center. De La Cruz is under it. That's out number 2. The runner will look to tag up. He is safe, and it is 21-19. And with that, we now have 40 combined runs. So that'll bring up the rookie Sean Paulson. Rips in into right. The game is still on the line for the Reds as that'll go for an extra base hit. Will they wave Friedel home? They will. The throw from a rise is in time! The Marlins have completed history! The biggest comeback ever in Major League Baseball has happened! The Marlins trailed 14-0 after 4 innings, and the Marlins had only scored 14 runs over their 11-game losing streak that they just snapped. There have been over 240,000 Major League games, and this is the first ever 14-run comeback. Along with having a 14-run comeback, again, the biggest ever, we also had 40 combined runs tonight, which is just ridiculously rare. To put that into perspective, how many games have had 40 combined runs? The answer is 0.00001%. If you're looking for an easier number to remember, 3. This is the 3rd game in Major League history where both teams score a combined total of 40 runs, and the first of which to not feature both the Phillies and the Cubs. Oddly enough. So if you factor in the fact that this is the third highest scoring game ever, along with the largest comeback ever, this is the craziest game in the history of Major League Baseball. And it could not have come at a better time for us, as we've lost 11 games in a row, and we needed a kick in the face. Boy, was this a nice kick in the face. So the offense, who's been abysmal over the last 2 weeks, was abysmal through 4 innings, and then all of a sudden they woke up. They dominated, scoring 21 runs from the 5th to the 10th inning. The reason why our offense was so good? 16 walks. The Reds could not find the strike zone, and the guys drawing the most walks for us today are the guys who have been struggling to draw walks all year. Anthony Santander, he drew 3. Jesus Sanchez, who didn't even come into the game until the 6th inning, he drew 3 as well. Homers for Miller, Diaz, Fortes, 2 for Jazz Chisholm, and Woody Landry. Yuri Perez and Sixto Sanchez were not good. The bullpen wasn't even that good. Even after the Reds had their 14-0 lead, their offense was still good through the rest of the game. They scored in the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 10th innings. The Reds' offense is not the reason why they lost tonight. Their offense, even after their big lead, was great. The big reason why the Reds lost, they could not command the strike zone. And it wasn't everybody. It was only certain guys who could not throw strikes. Alexis Diaz in particular at the end, but you can't entirely blame him because the Reds completely mismanaged their bullpen, with Diaz being the last active reliever on the roster once they put him in, putting him into a horrible situation where he had to stay in the game even when he was getting rocked. So yeah, definitely the craziest game I think I've ever seen in my entire life. After scoring 14 runs over the last 11 games, we had a 14-run comeback. Again, the biggest in Major League history. Now, let's not act like this is all sunshine and rainbows and singing Kumbaya. We're still only 500. We're still a ways away from the wild card race. But boy, does this change our season and give us much-needed momentum. So going into the trade deadline, we've got to make some decisions. Is our team in a position to potentially make the playoffs? What we've done over the last 2 years is we've done a mixture of buying and selling at the trade deadline. I don't think we can do that this year. I think we have to pick a direction. We got to go all in on buying and going for a wild card spot, or going all in on selling, making some tough decisions, trading some impending free agents, and looking to tear it down. We've got some tough choices here, and I think this game against the Reds made things a little bit more challenging because now I feel like there is a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel, which I did not see going into this game after losing 11 in a row. We're not going to simulate any further. We're going to end the episode here. I know it was a super long one, but man, that game was just utterly crazy. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.